Yo, what's up? Hey, it's Maggie, Glenny Geckos. Hi. So, thought I'd do a little video again. Woohoo! Sorry, I don't know what's up with me. I think I had too much caffeine. This is like my third cup. No judging. We're gonna talk a little bit about like downsides to like reptile breeding, just so then that way anyone who was interested in starting the business adventure, they would know all of the ins and outs, not just all the glorified fun stuff that is posted all over social media. If you were just to go based off of that, you might, once you get into it, be kind of like, oh, I kind of wish I would have known this so I could make a better decision for myself. So, okay, I kind of want to start off real quick with a story, one of my geckos, okay? His name is Trogdor, and I've mentioned his name several times in my videos, and I've never actually touched base on, like, what happened to him. So I got Trogdor from 312 Hertz, and I was planning on pairing him to one of my Dark Phantoms, Veda, and I've showed her a few different times. She's my oldest gal that I got from Fangs and Bangs. He was technically ready to breed. He was old enough. He weighed enough. He just needed like time to like acclimate. So I gave him like 6 weeks to acclimate, make sure he was eating, make sure he was pooping, make sure he wasn't sick, all that kind of stuff. Then as soon as I was able to, I paired the two together. That was my first pairing that I'd ever done, was those two. I had gotten lots of like advice from lots of people before I had paired them, so it wasn't like I was doing it blindly. And lots of people do it differently. Some people will pair all year round. Some people will only do it like they'll watch them and wait till they lock and then separate them. Some people do it for 3 weeks straight. So I've gotten lots of contradicting like methods, right? So I just went with what I was comfortable with. So I paired them like 2.5 weeks, and I checked on them and stuff, but they seemed fine. They were both eating. They were both pooping. I hadn't noticed like any fighting or anything like that. But then it was like, after like the 2.5 weeks, I went to go pull him out of his enclosure, and I had noticed that he had one of his hemipenes sticking out. So if you don't know what that is, that's the male parts of the gecko. They basically prolapse. So that means like they're just like they're out. They're supposed to like go out and then go back in, and they did not go back in. One of them didn't, and I was like, what the heck? But I didn't remember seeing it like the other times I checked on him, so I didn't know roughly when it happened, when it occurred, and so I immediately started reaching out to people. I first reached out to his breeder, and he had recommended that I use like honey water. I did that, nothing worked. He was like trying to gently push it back in. It wasn't going back in. I didn't know what to do. So I was kind of like freaking out. I didn't know what to do. So this is like a downside, right? Like know more about what's going on, and that's why you're hearing about this. So the next step that I took, I was like, all right, I can't do this. It's not working. I know it's going to cause some health issues. It could honestly cause an infection, and I could lose him. So I was like, well, I'll have to find a vet. So in my area, there's like no vets that handle exotic pets. Like that's like one of the downsides. So like if you are going to be a reptile breeder, make sure that you know where you can find one, or if you even have access to one. And if it's like a long ways away, make sure you're able to afford the trip, because you never know when you have to take your gecko, right? And so I looked in my area, and the closest one that I could find immediately was in Lansing. And so for me, that's like several hours away. And so I had to package him up in a dilly cup and take him down to Lansing. Well, unprepared, right? I just spent money on him not long ago, and I'd spent money on some other geckos not long ago, and I didn't really have like a good savings in my account to cover his procedure. So they had offered to remove it, and I was like, I can't afford that. So it was quite expensive. That procedure, they wanted me to pay like $700 to remove one hemipene, and I didn't have it. I'm going to be honest with you, and I feel bad about it, and I wish I did have it, but I did not have it. And I was like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So they ended up giving me like this steroid cream that was supposed to help the swelling, and then they gave me some basically lubricant to try to like coax the thing back in. It didn't work. It just didn't work. And so like I think I waited like another day or two, and I was like, this isn't working. I have to figure out how to get this cash. I have to figure out how to get this procedure done. And I ended up finding a place that was a little bit closer, like by an hour. So I drove there, and they took him in. They're like, all right, we can take care of him. And at that point, I'd had the money, and I was like, I'll do whatever I can. Well, unfortunately for me, I had waited too long, and it had caused a little bit of an infection. And, you know, they took him back. I wasn't able to go in with him because of COVID. And so I just kind of like waited around the area, did some things around the area, waited for them to call me so I could go pick him up. And they had removed both. They had removed both hemipenes. They had said that there was the one that was out was infected, and the one that was next to it was starting to get infected. So they removed both. And I was like, darn, you know, I just got this boy. I only paired him once. He was one of my favorites, and now I don't have him anymore. Like, I have him. He's alive. He's doing well, and he's still alive. But, like, now I can no longer use him for my projects. And that was because I wasn't proactive enough. I didn't learn until after that experience that you're really supposed to check your males more frequently, and it can happen, and it can happen to breeders or like males that have bred a lot, like experienced ones, and it can happen to new ones. It can happen to anything, and it's just a fluke, right? So then after that, I learned like check your males all the time, like whenever you can, check them and make sure. And then the minute that you see it, if you catch it right off the bat, it goes right back in and all is well. If you wait too long, it's like the nerves in it just kind of like die and they don't operate the way they're supposed to, and you just have to get that removed right away. Like there is no waiting and no steroid, none of that. Just get it removed. Like, and it also taught me make sure I always have a good savings for future issues like that. So just in case you have to take your pet or animal to the vet, you can afford it, right? So it taught me a few things, but it definitely is a downside to breeding. You know, it's... So then now, like, after that happened, he's different. Like, before, he was, like, the sweetest boy. Even when he had his hemipene issue and we were trying to push it back in, he never bit us. He never got mad. He never, like, dropped his tail, nothing like that. He was a super sweet boy. And I'm sure that he was in pain. It had to be painful. But he never, like, showed any sense of aggression. And then after they removed both of his hemipenes, he is now forever stuck in breeding mode. Like, it is the saddest thing ever. He doesn't understand what happened to him. And he is now constantly trying to breed with anything that comes near him. If you try to go in his enclosure, he will try to grab your hand. And he's not nice about it. Like, he's mean about it. And I really think it's because of what happened to him. But it's something that, you know, we just kind of deal with. He'll be with us forever. He's not going to go anywhere. Now he's a pet only, of course, and, you know, we just take care of him. And I do try to take him out every once in a while to try to, like, socialize with him and get him used to me being around him. But I also try to give him a little bit of space, too, because I'm sure to some degree it's probably somewhat stressful, right? So, but that's what happened with Trogdor. And that's one thing that you could experience as well. And I wasn't expecting it, and I thought that, you know, what I was doing was within parameters that would be safe. And, you know, now I know, and now I'm more aware, and now I've learned, and now, like, I think I can kind of try to avoid that a lot more, you know. Like, I'm sure it'll probably happen in the future where, you know, even acting quick won't do anything, and I'll have to get it removed. But I've learned from my mistake. So, and you're going to make mistakes in anything that you do, and that was one of mine. Another thing is, like, I would say space. So that's, I think, like, the biggest thing for most reptile breeders is that they don't have enough space, and they're always trying to expand or try to, like, figure out different rack systems to try to, like, have as many geckos as they can, but have it in a space that they can actually work in. So I was fortunate enough to be able to have a basement so I could have my reptiles in my basement, but I've had to rearrange my things so many different times because the more I expand, the less room that I have. And I think that's one of the primary reasons why a lot of breeders will sell babies at like little, like 3 grams, 4 grams, 5 grams, is because they can't hold them any longer than that because there's just not enough space. So if you ever wanted to get into reptile breeding, that's something that you should probably take into consideration. I mean, it is easier to keep crusteds and gargoyles because they don't require a large vivarium, or they don't like a large enclosure. Excuse me. You can keep them in just like little sterilite bins, but you can only fit so many sterilite bins in a space, right? So, like if you're running it out of your house and maybe you have a smaller house, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. So you have to take that into consideration. And I have said too, the cleaning. There's lots and lots of cleaning. So these guys are really easy to take care of. They're probably one of the easiest reptiles to own and breed. However, there are some things that you have to be careful with. They cannot be in an unsanitary environment. They can't. They have very delicate respiratory systems, and they're prone to like bacterial infections and things like that. So that would normally come or stem from an unsanitary environment. So you have to make sure it's clean. You have to make sure it's sanitized. If you have their environment clean enough, you shouldn't have to constantly take them to the vet. However, if you don't, you could potentially be spending a lot of money at a vet to try to fix the issue. And, along with cleaning their enclosure, you also have to make sure that their diet is sufficient enough. You have to make sure that you are giving them exactly what they need. So I see a lot of, it makes me so sad when I see it, like reptiles that have like MVD and like calcium crashes and things like that. You go into like a Petco or a PetSmart or something like that, and you see the way that they house their reptiles, and maybe if that's the only time you've ever seen a crested gecko, that's how you think that they're supposed to be housed, but it's so wrong. It's not right at all. They normally will have like heat lamps like on the top of the enclosures, baking the geckos. It's normally not humid in there. I've never really seen them with food, so like it's important to make sure that everything, the husbandry, is set up correctly. They have to have humidity. They have to have a dry out period, but they should also have kind of like an ambient, humidity in the area in the room at all times. They cannot be dry for a long period of time, and they cannot be too wet for a long period of time. So balancing those things is kind of a task, but once you get like the rhythm down, it's fairly simple. And it all depends on like where you live. So if you're in an area where it's always humid outside, you're probably going to be okay. You probably don't need to miss them that much because the ambient humidity is already high enough in the area that if you miss them too much, they're going to be too wet. And then you're going to have shedding issues and lots of other issues. If you're in an area like where I'm at and it's dry all the time, and you have your furnace on and it's just baking everything, that's when you have to make sure that you amp up that humidity, right? Mist them more throughout the day, have humidifiers going at all times, don't use anything scented that will mess up their respiratory systems. Just plain old water, and make sure you're cleaning out your humidifiers too, because those things get gross, okay, gross. And so everything has to be clean. And then I would say another thing too, and I don't think this is talked about enough, but it should be. Like I've said before, when ask a question, do they bite? Anything with a mouth can bite. So yes, they can bite, and sometimes they do bite. So if you are kind of leery about that, you don't want to get bit by them or whatever, I don't know, you have to make that choice within yourself, but you have to understand that this is something that can happen. And not every gecko is going to be completely tolerant of you. And there also is a period of time when they're growing baby juvenile stage where they are just very prey driven. They want to eat all the time, and they'll attack anything that comes in near their enclosure because they need more, right? They're growing, they require more protein, they need more calcium, they're growing like crazy. So they're kind of more in a mindset of, I've got to eat. So they're gonna want to bite. they're gonna bite anything that moves. You are like, I just want to cuddle with a reptile all day, and I want to blah. You know, like that's great, but like that's not geckos. Okay, geckos aren't that kind of pet. If you want a pet that cuddles with you a lot, or like you can bond with, you know, that kind of thing, get like a bearded dragon. Get like an iguana. Okay, like those pets will, those reptiles will do that. Geckos will not do that. I've never heard of any cases where it's been a severe bite, like where they've had to go to the hospital and get stitches or anything like that, like with a monitor. And like, so I think it's fine, but like, it would happen possibly. So just know that that could be a potential downside. For me, it's not a huge deal. It's like whatever, you know, like I just laugh at them. I just think they're funny. I'm like, oh, you're gonna bite me? Oh, you're so ferocious. I'm so intimidated. And I just laugh at them because they look so derpy. Even when they're mad, like they've got their full-on mad face on, right? They got their mouth gaping open. They're like, you know, and you're just like, oh, I'm so scared. But you're not. It's not scary. It's kind of funny. I don't mean to laugh at my geckos, but they're funny to me. And also I would say that I'm doing things at a cost-effective level, like I'm recycling a lot of things. However, that doesn't mean that it's 100% cheap either. If you're going to do like a reptile breeding business like me and like other people that are doing it, realize that it is a huge investment and that these babies grow fast. So if you were to get like a little tiny nano baby, and you get the little shoebox enclosure, realize that they grow fast. Even the slow growers still grow fast, and they will need to expand, so you're going to need to buy, like, a lot of totes. You're going to have to buy a lot of paper towel. Pangea and Rapashi prices have gone up. Orders are really hard to fill right now. A lot of them will say, hey, there's like a 3-week delay. Everything costs a lot. The bugs are like basically impossible most of the times to find. I mean, you can get like mealworms, but they're not like nutritious, and customers shouldn't eat them a lot. And crickets are easy to find, but they stink and they're not that nutritious. Roaches are expensive, hard to find, and when you have them shipped to your house, a lot of times half of them are dead. I've had a lot of people complain about it. But they're nutritious and they're good for your gecko. But that means then you'd also probably potentially have to raise your own roaches. So if you're like, I don't really like that, that's really gross. Well, then you're going to have to like order them from online and have them shipped to your house. Half of them are going to be dead. There's not going to be enough to feed everybody, especially if you're doing a larger scale breeding operation. And by larger, I just mean like if you have like 100 geckos, they eat a lot of roaches. And so like that's something that you have to weigh out. Is it necessary for them to eat roaches? Like, do they have to eat roaches? Not really, but if you were to get like a nano gecko, right, from 3 grams on up, they're gonna want that. I feel like if you're not providing them what they need and what their body is telling them they need, they're not gonna grow to their fullest potential, right? They're not gonna grow as strong, they're not gonna grow as healthy. Maybe they won't be as big as they should be, because you're basically feeding them like a tofu diet, you know, and they need that extra. And like I said before, they go through a period of time from, you know, nano to juvenile where they're wanting to eat everything that's moving. And that's because their body is telling them they need that extra. So like, you don't have to feed them bugs, but it's better if you do. So if you wanted to do like a reptile breeding gig, right, you want the healthiest, you want the longevity of that gecko. You want it to be as best quality as you can get, right? So I would say offer them bugs. So now you have to take into consideration what that means. That means either buying them constantly from other people who are breeding them and spending a lot of money and maybe not even getting everything that you asked for, or breeding them yourselves. So if you're like freaked out by roaches, kind of like I am a little bit, you have to deal with that fear. Like, I have to go in there, I have to clean them out, I have to sort them. I have to sift them, I have to feed them, I have to give them water, I have to interact with the roaches because they are what's feeding my geckos. And whatever care I give the roaches is what I'm giving my geckos. So if I'm not preparing a nice meal for them, if I'm not keeping their environment clean, if I'm not doing X, Y, Z, then whatever care they're getting, I'm giving to my geckos. And if I'm not taking care of them, I could potentially get my geckos sick. So just a food for thought. So I would say like that's kind of like a downfall, but it's all like based on like what you're willing to do. So take it with a grain of salt. Like if you're like, oh, that doesn't bug me at all, I can do that, then great, that's awesome. But for some, it might be a downside, right? Also, another thing, prepare to basically be busy all the time. So if you only have a couple geckos and they're just your pets, you'll be fine. This doesn't really apply to you. But like if you are planning on being a gecko breeder and you want to do this full time and you want to have like a big amount of numbers of geckos, understand that it's gonna require you to work a lot. So like there's gonna be certain things that maybe you might not have time to do, right? Like I can't go away for a week and go on a vacation, right? Because I have daily maintenance of my geckos. I have geckos being paired together. I have to keep an eye on, like, what happened with frog door. I have to make sure they're taken care of. They're all good. I have to prepare food. I have to take care of my roaches. I have to do cleaning. Babies are hatching out of eggs. I got to move them into new enclosures. I find eggs. I got to put them in incubators. I got to set up incubators. I got to make lay boxes. I got to mist them. I got to feed them. All of the things, right? I have to make sure everything is in order and all of my filing is good and everything. So there's a lot to it, right? So I don't really get relaxed time. So like when I'm not interacting with my geckos, like if I'm not in there and doing work in that room, I'm doing work outside of the room. I'm working on my website. I'm posting social media updates. I'm uploading YouTube videos. And then there's still like the daily tasks of my house. I got to clean, I got to cook dinner, I got to take care of my kids, all that stuff. I'm making plans for, future breeding. I'm, having to go out and purchase things they need. I have to, there's lots to it. So be prepared to not really relax too much, not really go out and enjoy weekends somewhere else too much. If I wanted to go and do something like that, I have to actually go and find a sitter for my geckos. I have to go into a friend's house and be like, hey, I have to be gone for the weekend. Is there any way you can come and watch my geckos? Just make sure that they're okay. Make sure they've got food, they've got water, they've got this. Like my leopard geckos need to be fed every other day, so that needs to get done. And then the roaches need to be taken care of. And I have to find a friend that's actually willing to do that. And that's hard for me anyway. It might not be hard for everybody. But like if you are in this niche thing that's like it's maybe taboo to some, it's going to be really hard to find someone to watch your geckos. It's going to be really hard to find someone who can take care of your roaches, who can know all of the care and notice when things aren't okay. So I have to actually like train my friends on how to take care of my reptiles and how to take care of my roaches, because if they notice something that's out of character or that's maybe not operating right, like with my thermostats or something like that, they get a hold of me and then I know, how to direct them and how to fix it and stuff like that. But if I don't educate them on how to take care of these animals, then they could honestly just be like, I didn't notice. Because if you don't know, if you've never known, if you've never done anything with reptiles, you're not going to look for those signs. So that's a hard thing, right? Like that would be like a downside to reptile breeding, is like just that. If I have to go away for a weekend or I have to go away for a few days or whatever it is, do I have someone that can take care of my geckos? Do my husband and I have to separate? He stays here and takes care of them. I leave and I go do the thing. What if it's a family event? Like there's a wedding coming up and I have to go to the wedding with my husband because we've both been invited. Well, now I have to find someone to take care of my geckos. And I've been very fortunate. I have a friend that lives close to me that's been around since I started this whole gecko gig. So she's learned just from, me talking to her about it. And she listens to what I say. Yeah, she just like listens to whatever I have to say about it. So she like follows my instructions really well. I'll leave her like a care sheet list of what to do and she follows it to a T and I can trust her. But I've heard lots of stories before where other breeders have had people come in and take care of their geckos, and they give them a care sheet or whatever, and they don't follow that. Like there was a DBCB Exotics. I watched a video with him, and he had gone away. I can't remember for how long, but he went away on a vacation with his significant other, and he came back expecting everything to run as it should have, like, because he left a care sheet, and it was somebody he thought he could trust, and they did not do any of it. They were very lazy about it. They oversaturated the geckos. They were basically staying in water, which is horrible, and I don't know how long they were sitting there like that. None of the enclosures were cleaned out. None of the bugs were taken care of, and he had to spend the next several days getting it back to order. And that's a pain in the butt. So, like, if you were thinking about getting into reptile breeding, no, that's part of it. So get to know some people, really get to know some people. See if you can find someone that you can actually trust to take care of your geckos. I might even recommend, I don't have to do it because I know I can trust my friend, but like I thought if I start hiring people, if I start like asking more people to come over and help once the business starts getting busier, I thought about installing cameras so then that way I can see what's going on at all times. There's always like the potential risk for someone stealing your stuff. I mean, I hate to say that because I like to think best of people, but you have to keep that in mind. I mean, if you are making decent money with your geckos and you've got something that someone else really wants, it's a potential risk. So keep yourself secure. Make sure that you have everything under lock and key. You know what I mean? Like, have some cameras set up where you can, like, if you're anywhere, you can pull it up, you can look at it on your phone and be like, okay, everything is good, all this is going on, that sounds great, and find people that you can trust. So that would be, like, one other downside that I could think of. I haven't had any experience with, like, anything bad happening to me with that respect, but I have had the issue of trying to find someone to care for my animals and to care for my insects. So that could be a potential thing that maybe might make things difficult for you. So keep that in mind if you were planning on becoming a gecko breeder, because it is part of the job, right? Another thing, if you have other animals, okay, hear me out. If you have other animals in your house, be prepared that something bad might happen. I have some friends they're great people, and I've gotten lots of geckos from them, and they take really good care of their geckos. They're not very well known because they don't ship online, but I'm telling you guys, these guys are amazing. And, they're running everything out of, like, their house and the basement and stuff like that, but they've got other pets. And unfortunately, they're living with family members, so, like, they only have the basement. They have their reptiles on one side, and they're on the other side. And they have pets. They have cats. They keep everything kind of, like, secure and stuff like that, and they do their best to try to keep the cats away from the geckos. But there have been times where that has failed. And cats they're pesky little mischievous things, and they got into some enclosures, and there's been some losses from that. So if you have an idea of becoming a gecko breeder and you also have other pets, keep in mind it could happen to you. I don't believe for a second that my friends just were neglectful and just let it happen. Quite the contrary. I just think that stuff happens. So if they were in like a house where they could keep them separated completely by like a door or several doors, they would totally do it, but they don't have that option at the moment. So like if you wanted to do this, keep that in mind. Keep your other pets away from your reptiles. If you are unable to, expect there to be losses. And they've lost some really nice geckos. I mean, really nice geckos. And it was an unfortunate loss, and they feel bad about it. But it could happen to literally anyone. I'm a crazy person, and I have like 6 cats, okay? Don't come at me, okay? I have 6 cats, all right? There's stories for all of them, but I'm not going to get into it today. I have 6 cats, and I have 2 dogs, okay? Any of those things could harm my geckos. I don't care how sweet it is. I don't care how cuddly it is. Cats are like death machines. They really are. Like they're super hunters. Okay, that's why people get them for their barns, and to get rid of the mice problem. They are super hunters, and they're very resourceful. They're very tricky, and they can get anything. So if you have other pets and you want to be a reptile breeder, understand that that is one of the things that comes with it. I have a basement where I have my geckos, and everybody in my house is fully aware at all times when that door is open and to close it immediately. We do not allow any of the other animals down there. I don't even let my dogs go down there. If you have like little ones, like little toddlers, right? Don't let them go in your gecko room without supervision. Okay? Just don't. Because they aren't going to understand. They're not thinking about that. They're just playing with stuff, and they're not going to know, and you could potentially get your kid hurt or your reptile hurt, or both. You have to, like, keep things separated to make sure that everybody is safe. So, like, I eventually, even though I love my basement setup and it's great and all that, I eventually don't even want to have my geckos in my house because I feel like even that is still a risk, because what if one of my kids like isn't paying attention one day and a cat goes downstairs, and it would be catastrophe, right? I eventually want to invest in like an outer building, like a pole barn that I can insulate and put all my geckos in there, so then that way I know for 100% fact nothing is getting in and they are 100% safe. Right? So, but maybe that's not an option for everyone, so I just wanted to kind of note that that is a potential downside to reptile breeding. If you have a hard time talking to people, this could be a downside for you. If you're just owning reptiles for pets, like you only have a few and you just, they're just a family pet, this doesn't really apply to you. But if you're looking to make this a business, understand that you're going to have to talk to lots and lots and lots and lots of people. And this is something that I had to kind of get comfortable with. I have severe anxiety, and I'm kind of introverted, and like I don't really go out and socialize too much. It's not my thing. So I've had to get out of my comfort zone and actually talk to people. If you're not willing to like talk to people and get to know people and market for your business or your brand or what you are producing, then this is probably not your thing. Because that is like the number one key to probably all of it. Like you could produce some great animals and they could be healthy and all of your methods could be correct, but if you can't like market for your business, if you can't talk to potential customers or even just talk to other breeders and like establish good rapport with everyone, and that's just like too challenging for you, it might not be your thing. So, and that's like not like a huge deal, but just understand that that kind of comes with the territory. It's glamorized a lot like on social media and everybody makes it look fun, but then when you actually go and do it yourself, it's a lot different. You're putting yourself out there and you're basically opening yourself up to be judged. And so that's a hard thing for a lot of people, and myself included. So, but it is a thing that you kind of have to do. You have to take that risk. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and try to market for your business. Are you going to get it right every time? Probably not, but you should try. You should try anyways, but it could be potentially a downside, like if it's just really challenging for you to talk to someone, or it's really challenging for you to reach out, or maybe you don't even know how to market yourself, or maybe you suffer from like severe self-esteem issues or something like that, and like you don't feel like you're worth someone's time. I've felt that before, so no judge here on that. You got to get over that. You got to be like, that doesn't exist. That's not a real thing. That's just a thought, and it's gone. Okay, it's a thought, and it's gone. That's the other thing. It's a thought, and it's gone. Okay, because it's only real if you make it real. And as long as you are a good person, you produce healthy, good quality animals. You are respectful to people. You're honest. You're driven. You're hardworking, and you're fun. Everyone will like you. For the most part. I mean, you might have a few like stragglers that are just like they have their own issues to work out, but for the most part, people will like you. People will be drawn to you. For example, me, I don't judge anyone, right? I just don't. I don't really care what walk of life you came from. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care your status. I don't care any of that. None of that matters to me. I look at who you are. And if you are a good person, I like you. And I think that that's common. It's just not talked about a lot, you know, and I've made a lot of friends by just stepping out of my comfort zone and, you know, exchanging my insecurities with them. And then they go, yeah, I feel the same way. And I hear it a lot. So, like, but getting off topic, sort of, that could be a potential downside. Also, you could just lose babies in general. Like, I posted a video, I did a live video on Instagram, and I'm not going to go into everything I said there. If you want to watch it, you can watch it on your own time, because it'll just take too much time here. But even if you do everything right with your geckos, and you feed them right, and their husbandry is good, and you pair them, and all that goes well, and you have an egg, and there's still always a possibility you could lose a baby. You could lose a baby while it's in the egg. It could stop developing in the egg. It can pop out of the egg. It could pass away after it gets out of the egg. There's always a possibility of potentially losing a baby. And if that's too hard to deal with, that could be potentially a downside to reptile breeding. For me, it's really hard. I hate it. It makes me cry. But I also understand that it's just part of the thing, right? Like, you're never going to get it 100% perfect. You can try your best, but sometimes nature just does its own thing, and there's really not much that you can do about it. So don't try, like, I don't beat myself up about it. I just kind of keep going. But it is a potential thing that could be a downside to you or for you for your idea. So just wanted to mention that. And who knows, I might come up with like a part 2 or another video if I come up across anything else that I can think of as a downside. But that's basically all I can really think of at the moment that would be a downside. Try to get on a more positive note. Even with all those things considered and all of the things that make it kind of more challenging or maybe could like make things more difficult to a point where maybe you thought you couldn't do it, I want to tell you it's still worth it. It's still worth it. Okay? It is so rewarding. It is more rewarding than it is challenging. I get to do what I love. Okay? And I haven't sold anything, but I know that eventually I'll get to a point where I can provide for my family with doing this business, doing the thing that I am passionate about. I love being with my reptiles, holding my reptiles, looking at my reptiles. I love seeing the babies that hatch out. You know, every time they pop out, I'm just like, whoa. Like, I'm just blown away. The fact that this little thing is a creation of something that I've put together. Because it's cool. It is so cool. And I love the people that I've met. I love the friends that I've made. I love how I've been able to get out of my comfort zone and try something different. I love the potential for traveling the world, you know what I mean, and meeting people from all over the place and selling my reptiles. And, you know, I love all of the things that come with it. All of the things, okay? It's made me more passionate about drawing. It's made me more passionate about my life. It's given me the extra oomph that I needed to get off my butt and do something for myself for once, because I never did. I've never done it. And just breeding reptiles in my basement has given me that oomph. If you've never had a reptile and you've never done this, maybe it won't make as much sense to you. But I'm telling you, the minute that you do it, it's just awesome. It's one of those things that just is life-changing. At least it was for me. I haven't met a single person in this reptile thing that I haven't liked. Not one. And they've all been super cool. They all basically are not the same, but they basically, their viewpoints are about the same, right? They roughly the same music. They're kind of nerdy. They're sort of introverted. Maybe they have anxiety. You know, maybe they came from not a bad background, but maybe they've had to work to get to where they're at. So they have the same drive as you. You know, so you are meeting up, even if they're more ahead in the game. You are still meeting up, and you're still the same person. And they just have been super kind. Honestly, there's been a few that I want to mention in particular that have been really good to me, and that's Will and Andra from Flawless Crested Geckos. They're amazing people, like super, super nice people. Every time I've spoken with them, they're super helpful, they're super genuine, they're kind, they're professional, they're just great people, okay? Kelly from Eclipse Exotics, same person, just wonderful, amazing, hardworking, kind people. Like I said, my friends, Eli and Rebecca, they're amazing people. They're not well known because they don't ship online, but they have been so, so, so helpful to me. So kind, so generous. They're so much fun to be around. They make me laugh. Great people. And I know as time goes on, I'll just make more friends. Like I made a friend doing my Instagram live the other day. It was really nice. I talked to her. Name was Izzy, but amazing people, good friends. You know what I mean? And it's just so much fun to be able to sit down and chit chat about geckos and get geeked about geckos and like look at their projects and then they look at your projects and you just, oh my gosh, I really like that project. I love that. It's gonna be so great. And to me, it's worth all of the trials and tribulations. And it's just, the more you learn, the more you do something, the better that you get. And that's kind of my mindset is like, I made a mistake here and there. I wasn't perfect all the way through it, but I've learned from it and I'll grow from it and I'll get better. So that's the best you could really ask for, right? Anyways, I think I've done enough talking in this video. I'm going to wrap it up, but I enjoy doing these and I appreciate anyone that's popped in again. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for listening. If there's any questions you have, anything at all, just message me or comment and I will respond as soon as I see it. But again, I thank you very much and I will see you in the next video. Bye.